books, bad books, bad books, bad books. We know how you feel. We love our Batman. But sometimes you get stuck with a trade that you don't like. Save your money and your time. Just when you think you're reading is stuck. Chris and Gerry come with another tale that you can't wait to read all up. Download Bad Books, Bad Books, Bad Books, Bad Books for Beginners. Bad Books for Beginners with Chris and Gerry. It's Bad Books. Fall in love with another trade, you know you can. For beginners, we'll talk about family, discuss the stories. Subscribe and download. Bad Books for Beginners is good.
Hello, and welcome to this edition of TBU's Bat Books for Beginners, episode 185. My name is Gerry.
And I'm Chris.
And we're your hosts.
On Bat Books for Beginners, we will examine story arcs with Batman and related characters. We'll give you the historical background of the book, break down the plot and the art, and give you our opinions so you can decide for yourself if they're worth a read.
Today's Bat Book Chris and I are covering is Nightwing, Freefall. Chris, tell us a little bit about this book.
Thank you very much, Gerry. Hey, you threw in a little Janis Joplin there, huh?
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, very impressive, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Bat fans. Thank you for downloading and spending a part of your day with us today. Nightwing, Freefall is a 168-page softcover trade paperback that was published in November 2008 and had a cover price of $17.99. The trade paperback collects material originally printed in 7 issues of Nightwing, with the issue numbers 140 through 146, which were originally cover dated March 2008 through September 2008. And those individual issues had a cover price of $2.99. The individual issues appear to be available on Comixology. If you're interested in obtaining a tangible copy of the story, trying to go after the individual issues from eBay or My Comic Shop may be the way to go, as I found copies online for about $1 to $2 a piece for individual issues. The trade paperback appears to be available in the secondary market online for around the $17.99 cover price, up to double that price. Ouch. Yeah.
Wow.
Buyer beware, and please shop carefully. Now, for our creative teams, per usual, I'll combine online sources and my memory. For our writer, we have Peter J. Tomasi. He started as an editor at DC Comics in 1993, and he worked on such titles as Green Lantern, the various Batman titles, Aquaman, Hawkman, and JSA, standing for Justice Society of America. Tomasi was an occasional writer on various titles. In 2007, Tomasi left his 14-year role as an editor and he transitioned into writing. He began working on the limited series Black Adam, The Dark Age. In 2008, he wrote Requiem, a tie-in to the Final Crisis, and paid a tribute to the fallen Martian Manhunter. Now here, when we're getting into this, Nightwing is where Tomasi wrote. He wrote 14 issues of Nightwing until his cancellation in April 2009, and this was going to be to the upcoming events for the Battle for the Cowl storyline that's going to come up ahead. In 2011, Tomasi took over as writer over on Batman and Robin, and with issue 20 from Paul Cornell with the writing of the 3-part Tree for Blood storyline that ran into issue number 22. Now let's see, from 2009 to 2010, Tomasi co-wrote the creator-owned title, The Mighty, with Keith Champagne, as well as the Green Lantern Corps through the Blackest Night storyline. Now, most recently, I've enjoyed Peter Tomasi's writing on Superman during the DC Rebirth run. Really good stuff. Here's an interesting fact. Tomasi grew up in the Washington Heights area of Manhattan. And the story we're about to cover, I think, has a lot of love and feel for the metro geography.
Yes.
He incorporated his love of New York City bridges in a new graphic novel titled The Bridge, How the Roeblings Connected Brooklyn to New York. And this was illustrated by Sarah Duvall. At the time I was putting my notes together, it was just recently announced that Tomasi will be writing the upcoming 12-issue maxi series, Adventures of the Super Sons, picking up where the canceled Super Sons title is leaving off. He can be found on Twitter at Peter J. Tomasi. Now let's see, for art, we have art for parts 1, 2, 3, and 6 were done by Rags Morales and Michael Baer. Ralph Rags Morales is of Puerto Rican descent, and he attended the Joe Kubert Art School. I first encountered his work in DC's 1990s Black Condor series, and he was previously mentioned in our episode where we covered his outstanding artwork in Identity Crisis. For parts 4, 5, and 7, the primary artwork was done by Don Kramer. Don Kramer was born in Seoul, South Korea, on August 6, 1969, and he was raised in Shabance, Illinois. He attended Clifford Central High School and he got his BFA at Illinois Wesleyan University. Titles at DC include a Dr. Fate miniseries with Chris Golden, JSA with Jeff Johns, and a run of Detective Comics with Paul Dini. He also was the artist for Nightwing with Peter Tomasi that we're covering here, the JSA vs. Cobra miniseries with Eric Troutman, and J. Michael Straczynski's run on Wonder Woman. He currently lives in Bourbonnais, Illinois, per the website DonKramerArt.com. Now, speaking of the Black Condor, the 1990s version, this, for listeners, this is going to be the Ryan Kendall version of the character. He would appear in Infinite Crisis #1 as part of the Freedom Fighters, but he was killed by Sinestro in an ambush by the Secret Society of Supervillains. This is going to come into play in our story. In the Blackest Night crossover, Ryan was reanimated as a member of the Black Lantern Corps. Now, over on Amazon.com, Nightwing Freefall has a 4 out of 5 star rating based on 6 customer reviews. And over on Goodreads.com, this has a 3.8 out of 5 star rating based on 20 reviews and 242 ratings. But not so fast. Just what do Gerry and I think of this book, and how are we going to rate it? Stay tuned, and with that, I shall turn it back over to you, Gerry.
Thanks, Chris. Great information there. Thanks so much. We're going to talk about this story after a few messages from some of our friends.
When you talk about comics, does it sound something like this?
Look, you can't put the Superman number 77s with the 200s. They haven't even discovered red kryptonite yet. And you can't put the number 98s with the 300s. Lori Lamaris hasn't even been introduced.
Or maybe it sounds a little more like this.
You think Mighty Mouse could beat up Superman? What are you, cracked? Why not? I saw the other day he was carrying 5 elephants in one hand.
Boy, you don't know nothing. Mighty Mouse is a cartoon. Superman is a real guy. No way a cartoon could beat up a real guy.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Would be a good fight, though.
Hello, I am the constantly caffeinated Clinton Robinson, and my comics discussions can go to both extremes, but generally fall somewhere in between. On the Coffee and Comics podcast, I will review comic stories and other comics-related topics that can be enjoyed over a cup of coffee. So pour the coffee, or other beverage of choice, and join me on the Coffee and Comics podcast, available on iTunes and coffeeandcomicspodcast.blogspot.com.
Welcome back. Here's the story of Nightwing Freefall. Someone is stealing bodies from graveyards. Who would do that?
I don't know. I think that's against the law. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure. That's what Batman, Tim Drake, Robin, and Nightwing want to know. Tim has discovered a lot of computer chatter regarding the League of Assassins. What is Ray Shandor Talia up to? Dick Grayson has been living in New York City and is at the Museum of the City of New York, where he meets Deborah. He's researching the cloisters, figuring that this is an obvious target of the thieves. He and Deborah hit it off. On the street, he runs into Talia al Ghul, who warns him off his research. In the dark of night, he visits the cloisters. He spies some motorcycles near a tunnel dug in the grounds. He heads down to check things out. A group of goons is trying to steal the body of a 13th century French knight. Nightwing breaks up the body snatch. As he cleans up, he's attacked by a flying ghoul that grabs the knight's body and flies off. Nightwing gets a rope around his leg and takes a ride with him. The creature knocks him off into the Little Red Lighthouse. Nightwing realizes that Wayne Enterprises owns the cloisters and takes over one of its towers to monitor the situation.
I always thought Bruce was a real savvy real estate guy. Sorry,
Definitely.
Gerry.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He wants to monitor the situation, so he redoes the tower with the help of the Justice Society. Dick takes over as the museum curator for the cloisters. Superman shows up and tells Nightwing that the body of Black Condor is also missing, among others. Nightwing heads to Valhalla Cemetery in Metropolis to look for clues. Winged creatures attack Niagara Falls Air Reserve Station and take off with weapons. They are being directed by one Dr. Kendall. Kendall orders one of his goons to pick up 3 corpses he has selected. Uh-oh. Dick takes Deborah on a date to Yankee Stadium. Turns out that she's a Met fan, but Dick heroically likes her anyway.
Where do you land on this, Jerry? Yankees?
Yeah. He tells her that he is the new curator of the cloisters. Her brother is a real estate agent that finds Dick an apartment that has a fine view of the Hudson River and the George Washington Bridge. He asks Bruce to buy a bunch of buildings so he can fly across the city unhindered. Nightwing finds some thugs stealing the body of KG Beasts. He beats them up, but is confronted by a flying ghoul in a knight's outfit with a machine gun. Nightwing tackles and tases the creature, but it suddenly expires. Dr. Kendall is able to kill them remotely. Kendall is working on some kind of devious plan of some kind. At Justice Society headquarters, Dr. Midnight finds the ghoul's brain micro-imploder. He also finds that the creature is a clone created using advanced techniques. Different parts of his body have different DNA. Nightwing borrows, takes, steals, whatever, Batman's new plane and many weapons, as well as Tim Drake, and flies off to Talia's last island base in Africa. They take out some goons and infiltrate the subterranean lair. Dr. Kendall is there. He's creating an army of DNA mashup clones. They will be loyal and obey him totally. Tim gets grabbed by the thugs, and Kendall is going to throw him into the furnace. Dick talks to some of the winged creatures and tells them that Kendall is just using them. They do listen to him, and they must trust Kendall. Kendall explodes their heads. Dick frees Tim and deactivates the noggin bombs. The winged guys help the two get to Kendall, but the Dirty Doc gets away on a rocket thingy. Nightwing and Robin go along for the ride, but get pitched off into the water. Meanwhile, in China, at the headquarters of the Great Ten, Nian Guanjun, Mother of Champions, who has had over 1,000 children who all age at an accelerated rate, is kidnapped by Kendall's men.
Ouch! 1,000 children!
That's a lot of kids. That's a lot of birthdays.
Yes.
Yeah.
My goodness.
In New York City, Nightwing is doing a great job fighting crime. Talia visits Dick in his office in the cloisters. Dick tells her he knows about Kendall and his work and that she is in cahoots with him. She says that she needs an army to protect herself from her father, Ra's al Ghul, who she hears wants to control the League of Assassins again, after she may or may not have betrayed him. Spoiler alert, she did. Ra's has his new body, and it's only a matter of time before he's back. Dick tells her to stop with the army of super soldiers already. She gives him a photo of Deborah sleeping in bed and says that sometimes innocents get hurt. Talia takes a boat 60 miles up the Hudson north of the city to the Hammer Armory, which is on Palapel Island. Beneath the castle, she has a secondary lab, building her creepy army. Dr. Kendall has Nian Guanjun, Mother of Champions, unconscious and birthing babies for him. The children age 10 years a day. They are super strong with the strength of 20 men. Talia says Nightwing is not to be disturbed since she has him worried about his girlfriend, and he should be out of the picture. Kendall secretly sends some winged assassins to kill him anyway. The assassins find Nightwing, but he is prepared for them, and dispatches the flying creatures and captures one. Ra's al Ghul is heavily sedated in Arkham Asylum. He manages to get a pen from one of his guards and stabs himself. Because of this, he needs a transfusion of blood, and the new blood does not have the sedative in it. So he is no longer sedated, and he frees himself. Nightwing, Robin, and Batman try to convince the captured flying creature to betray Kendall. He won't. They find out that Kendall is part of an old colonial American family that wanted to find a way to make men fly. He has now succeeded using Lazarus Pit juice and Langstrom's Man-Back serum. They get the word that Ra's has escaped Arkham. Talia sends someone to kidnap Deborah, but Nightwing is waiting for him. He gives the kidnapper an envelope for Talia. It's an ultimatum to keep friends and family out of their squabbles.
You just can't find good kidnappers these days, Jerry. I don't know what's going on.
No, I know. It's such a simple thing, and they just can't get it done. The envelope also contains a photo of Talia sleeping. In a rage, Talia searches for the bug in her bedroom. In the Batcave, they found gunpowder on the winged creature's wings. They study the chemicals and realize it is a very old type of gunpowder and detect that it is from the Hammond Armory. Nightwing takes his powered glider up the river to the island. He goes underwater to find Talia's lair and finds many dead winged creatures tethered to cables. He spots Talia heading down some stairs and follows. Talia demands Kendall figure out how to stop the rapid aging because Raish has escaped and will come after her and Damien. She asks where are all the children. Kendall tells her that they were useless and he killed them. She's shocked and orders him to stop. He refuses. She says she is shutting the experiments down. He has other plans. Some of the flying men are loyal to him and take her away. Nightwing interrupts her trip to the cell. Together they make short work of the thugs. They free Mother of Champions and discover from one of the medical guys that Kendall has found one baby that didn't age quickly. Kendall has used that baby's DNA to make himself young and give him wings. Nightwing finds him and they fight. Nightwing sets him up to be electrocuted by lightning and also saves the special baby. They send the baby back to China with the Mother of Champions. She tells her remaining winged children to leave this place and follow the Eightfold Path as they live out their short lives. Due to the international problems this experiment caused, the UN is looking to put rules on the supers, including how they bury the dead. Nightwing and Superman discuss burying them under JLA headquarters. The end. So Chris and I are going to talk about our feelings for this story after these words from some of our friends.
Xenozoic Xenophiles.
A fan podcast devoted to the comic series Xenozoic Tales.
It's a post-apocalyptic adventure series filled with Cadillacs and dinosaurs.
I'm Ruth.
And I'm Darren.
We hope you'll join us as we discuss the stories, characters, and art in this excellent comic series from creator, writer, and artist Mark Schultz.
Xenozoic Xenophiles is available at podbean.com and on iTunes and Stitcher.
And find us at xenozoicxenophiles.com.
Welcome back. So, Chris, what'd you think about this story?
This was Peter Tomasi's first work on the Nightwing title, and I got to tell you, Jerry, I was pleasantly surprised. This was very good stuff. We had some great panel composition that really complemented the art. There was some great art with perspective, especially with the skydiving.
Yes.
And when we had that with the buildings, Rags Morales, one of my favorite artists. I wish I saw more of him. We had great specials, and with page 3, we had like a nice panel setting of Tim smiling on the left panel. Middle panel, there's Bruce with a scowl, typical Batman, and then Alfred with the quizzical look. And I thought, wow, this is going to be a great read. I had a couple minor quibbles what we can get to later, but those were my initial impressions. What did you think?
I had a lot of fun with this story. I loved, like you mentioned, Dick's skydiving, and that was so fun, just his adventurous nature. And also he was teaching acrobatics to kids, and I think it's showing his kind nature. This is, Dick Grayson is a very special character in the Batman family, and I think this story really brings out what makes him such a compelling character, why people really like him so much. Now, this also has a lot of Justice Society folks in it. Superman is in this story a number of times. There's a great scene where he's meets with Nightwing in Fort Tryon Park, and a cop shows up. And, the cop is saying, how great they are. And, Superman is making sure, no, you are the real hero. I mean, it's a heartwarming scene. Superman is such a great guy.
He is, and he doesn't talk down to Nightwing or is dismissive of him. He really treats him as an equal. And you have to think back. I don't know what kind of continuity we're in, but, they did have their moments together with the World's Finest, at least in my mind, and even a few team-ups in the DC Comics Presents back in the 80s. So I hope this is sort of in that same continuity where they've had that relationship where Superman's known Dick Grayson since he was, a kid. So this was good to see them, and the exchange really played out in such a way where each character respected the other with their intelligence and with a course of action to take with their predicament. So I thought it was really, really well written.
Yeah, I think Dick is kind of the most Superman-y of the Bat Family folks. Just that good guy at heart.
Absolutely. And like you said, the scene in the park with the cop with the selfie was
so great.
That was so great. That was a nice touch.
Now, there's a lot of other, lighthearted moments in this. Dick is in his Nightwing plane thing, and he pulls up beside Bruce's limo and, kind of knocks out the window. He's flying next to him, and they have a little conversation, and Alfred's there kind of doing his Alfred eye rolling. That's a lot of fun. Dick, when he stole the weapons from the Batcave, he leaves Alfred a note, and he says, "Yeah, I took this, your friend Jimmy Olsen."
Yes.
And Tim and Dick are great fun together. They're gently teasing each other like, brothers that are really good friends. And, this is a really good Bat Family book from, a lot of interactions with the Bat Family, a lot of relationships building amongst Dick and Tim and Alfred, and it's just a really sweet book in that way.
Yeah, Gerry, one of my notes I had here, now you could perhaps help me out. You might be a little more versed in this. Were these actual points of reference in the Metro New York area? Do you know offhand?
Well, so, as you live in and around the Chicago area, and I'm sure you see movies that that are set in Chicago, and you're like, well, they're running and they were in this part of town, and now they turn a corner and they're in a completely different part of town. And this book is actually pretty good. The Cloisters is a real place, although it is not owned by Wayne Enterprises, as far as I know. It's a part of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and it's a beautiful old, building where they have a lot of beautiful artworks, and it's a wonderful place to visit. It's right on the Hudson. It's a beautiful site. It's up on a hill, just like in the book. I've been there many times. It's a terrific place to visit. They show the Little Red Lighthouse, which is a real place by a real lighthouse by the George Washington Bridge. They show here Columbus Circle, which is drawn not quite. The subway station isn't quite right, but it's pretty close. It's pretty close. And the Museum of the City of New York is a real place. I mentioned Polypel Island, so that's a real island up the Hudson. And in the story, it's called Hammer Armory, but there's actually an old broken down castle called Bannerman Castle on it. And if you're traveling up on the Metro North up on the Hudson line, you can see it from the train. And it's a decrepit, it's dangerous, and it's got a lot of ticks and poison ivy, so you shouldn't go there. But it used to be an armory. And another thing that they mention here, which was really interesting, they said that the natives say that the Hudson flows both ways. And it does. And it flows with the tides. It's an unusual kind of river system. And because of just the way it was created and the bays around it, it actually flows north in high tide and flows south in low tide. And it goes up to, I think it goes up to Troy, which is pretty far north for that to happen. And in fact, the lower river up to like Poughkeepsie or Newburgh is salty. So it's an unusual river, and they cover that very nicely in the story. So I really appreciate the detail they took.
Yeah, I got to give props to Tomasi, and I would think if you have at least a passing knowledge of that area, that really, really enhanced the story for the reader.
For sure.
And it certainly made me curious as to the geographic points mentioned, and if they were actual places, and if so, how close to home did they hit it? So that was good to know.
Yeah,
I appreciate
they nailed
that.
it. They did a really good job. We got a lot of visits from folks. We got Dr. Midnight and Ma Hunkel, who's Red Tornado, I believe.
That is correct. Yeah, that was a nice touch.
I love to see that. And, they talked about Nang Guanjun, Mother of Champions, which is another kind of a deep cut, a great choice.
Yeah, we also had Wally and we had Roy in the Arsenal role. They had some brief moments there. But you could just see the banter with Dick and these two guys. You can see the history, hear the history in their words, and just the playfulness, but yet they are still focused. And eavesdropping on a conversation with two old-time friends, it was really nice, and I liked the way that played out. Well, Jerry, there were a couple other things I had in my notes. It seems like whenever we have a new Nightwing arc, Dick is seemingly we get a new writer, so they have to give him a new base of operations.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that, but it seems like Dick has a different zip code every time. Poor guy's moving, and I don't know how he gets his mail and his bills. And I just want to touch upon one other part too. We had a new girlfriend introduced, and her name was Deborah. And I just tried to warm up to her, but I don't think we're going to see much, if anything, of her beyond the story arc. Did she do anything for you as far as the character? Because I sort of had a lukewarm feeling to her. It's not that I disliked the character. She was interesting. She was pleasant. The exchange she had with Dick were great. They had some nice outings together. But I don't know if this was right down the middle. I really don't know if I had any good takeaways, but I certainly didn't have any negative ones either. How did this character strike you?
Yeah, I felt the same. It seemed like Dick is in New York. He needs a girlfriend in New York, so let's get him one. And put her in danger and all that. And she just seemed a little generic. I didn't get an actual personality or character other than Dick's girlfriend. And so that I would say it makes it a little weak, makes her character a little weak.
Yeah, and it was a little too convenient. I think she had a relative who was a real estate agent who set Dick up, and I think the first place Dick looks at, how many times do you go real estate shopping or looking for a new place to live, and the first one you find is the one you're going to take? It's perfect, I'll take it. Like, what? So, well, this is exactly what I wanted. Yeah, so that was a little bit of a stretch, but I guess in comic book land we'll let it pass. But we have to get the story along. I did think this. Speaking of too long, I did think this story could have been told with maybe one or two less issues, and I don't know if Tomasi was tasked with, you've got 7 issues to fill a story arc, have at it. And I think if that was what he was tasked with, great. There was a lot of places where I almost felt like it was too wordy. There was good panel composition with his internal thoughts. Boy, oh boy, he did a lot of skydiving. It's like, okay, how much can the reader take of this adrenaline rush? But I thought this might have been a little long, and I think that might affect my score. It's by no means was it not this was a good read, but just a little too long for my taste. And with that, I think maybe we'll slide into our ratings at this point.
Absolutely. What do you think?
Well, Jerry, this was fine. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I thought it was there was more to like than dislike here. We had a lot of great cameos, and it was nice to see the interactions that Dick had with Tim. Where he's going to the Batwing and he says, "Well, what are you waiting for? Come on and join me." And well, shouldn't you get dressed first? Let me put on my costume. But there was some good stuff. But I thought some of the things played out a little too long. When they first infiltrated this layer of operations, that seemed to drag just a little bit. It took a while for that to play out. We don't think we mentioned Talia too much. Talia was pitch perfect. Tomasi has a great handle on all the characters that were depicted here, including Talia, including the Titans characters, the JSA members, Superman. But I just thought it was a little too long, but this was a fine read. So I'm going to go 3.5 out of 5. Where did you go with this?
I think I would go just a little bit higher. I think I would go with 4 out of 5. I definitely some of it is because I think Tomasi did a good job with the locations in New York. I think that made really good sense, and that was kind of fun for me. I think that I agree with you about the this is a fun story. There's a lot of fun times. The Dick and Tim, as you mentioned, they're a lot of fun together. Alfred is just so Alfred.
And Dick really knows how to get under Talia's skin too, where she just does a lot of slow burns in this, which was hysterical to read.
Yeah, and I do kind of like the honor among thieves or honor among soups or whatever you call it, because she knows that she can get to Dick's girlfriend. But you never get the feeling that she's really going to do it. She's just threatening him. She doesn't feel like she's really going to have to do anything. You kind of see that they're competitors, but she's not evil, and he doesn't think she's evil. She's just doing bad things. I like that relationship. So I think I'll give it a little higher. I also like how they introduce the characters, the Justice Society characters. Just a little bit here and there, and then Superman gets a great Superman section. So I'll just boost it a little bit for those reasons. I don't know if this is a must read, but I think it's a pleasant read. It's a fun read that I would recommend to people. How about you?
Right. I'm in the same train of thought here. I checked my box as a no for a must read, but by no means am I dismissing this story as not a good story. Mm-hmm. It is a very good story, and if you're a Nightwing fan, and if you can find this, the back issues on the cheap, mm-hmm. I think it'll more than get your money's worth. Tomasi did a great job, and I was very, very satisfied with the story overall.
Excellent. All right, so this is a good one. Thanks, Chris.
You bet.
So now folks should not forget to check Chris and I out on our new show, The Professor Frenzy Show, and we will be, episode 3 should be up by the time you hear this, and we're having a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah, this is great. I can't believe we're having this forum.
I know.
I feel like somebody said, yeah, you could do this. Are you sure? Yeah, okay, go.
And we're doing it. Yeah. And now this show, Bat Books for Beginners, is part of the BatmanUniverse.net network. We offer all the Batman-based weekly comic book reviews, news, and some great podcasts, including the flagship comic podcast, Everyone Loves the Drake, Batgirl to Oracle, and so many more. If you want to consider helping out and donating to the TBU Patreon account, you can. You can find the link to the account on the BatmanUniverse.net website. And there are a couple of things about TBU that's just wanted to briefly mention, that the 250th episode of the Comic Cast is coming up. So, wow. Yeah, that's a great accomplishment that Dustin and the guys have done. So we just wanted to congratulate them.
What an achievement, and that's a great milestone, and it's always a fun listen. Yeah. So please be sure to check that out. All the episodes, not just the 250, but it's a great show.
It sure is. And at Everyone Loves the Drake, they're doing the Lonely Place of Living audio as an audio drama. So that's been a lot of fun. I've been really enjoying that, and folks should check that out.
I am too, and every time I listen to the show, there's some voices that I thought, oh my God, is that? Yeah, it
yes,
is.
It is.
So it is, yeah. So for the month of May, please be sure to listen. Well, for the month of May, they're doing the audio show, but Everyone Loves the Drake, doing an outstanding job with that storyline. Oh, great stuff.
Terrific. Now, of course, Batgirl to Oracle, another excellent show on TBU. And Chris, you've been doing some help. You've been helping out that show quite a bit over the last bit, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been for a couple of years now. Yeah. I've had a segment on the show which Stella has graciously allowed to have me chime in with what I'd like to review. And initially that was just for the Batman 66 title, and I've covered that and then its subsequent team-up runs. Mm-hmm. Right now I'm looking at the Batman Adventures comic book, which was from the 1990s, which was based on the 90s Batman the Animated Series. And I think this was a title that was a superb title, mm-hmm. and for a while it rivaled as one of the better Batman titles you could get on the market. Almost was like, this is, if not better than the current Batman detective stuff, it's at least as good. Wow. So I think this is a title that really deserved an examination and a deep dive with. So I'm very fortunate that Stella graciously allowed me to have a moment on that show to cover stuff. I also do a bit where I look at the Nightwing title. I do a shipper update where I do that on a segment within a segment called Night Watch. Mm-hmm. And later on this summer, when Archie meets Batman 66, I'm going to cover that. Oh. So I'm looking forward to mentioning that title and doing a quick review of that particular miniseries. So
I can't wait to hear it. Your stuff over there is great.
I have a lot of fun with it, and I am so blessed to be a part of that awesome show. Gerry, over on the BatmanUniverse.net that you formerly mentioned there. Mm-hmm. Now, I saw some written reviews by someone by the name of Gerry, and could that be that same person? Is that you, sir?
I think it might B. I've been.
You do some really great written reviews.
Thank you.
Over there. So yeah, I'm sorry that. Well, you're still going to do Batgirl.
Yep, I sure am. I'm moving. I'm moving off Mother Panic, and of course, Birds of Prey has been canceled. But I'm going to be starting Catwoman in July.
Yay, Joelle Jones Catwoman series.
Can't wait.
This ought to be interesting. Yeah, looking forward to that.
Catwoman is one of my favorite characters, and always has been ever since Batman '66 TV show that I watched when I was a kid. And boy, oh boy, I always loved Catwoman. So I can't wait to do this.
Can't wait to see what you think about it.
Fantastic. So, another thing that I get up to in all of my spare time is I'm over on Twitter a lot. And you can catch me on Twitter at Professor Frenzy. And I cover my favorite DC books and indie books and just all kinds of things in terms of comic book reviews. And I try to be succinct, and you have to be on Twitter. I talked about Dark Shadows over on Twitter, and I also do the live tweeting of horror movies at the Spenguli hashtag. And Chris, we had a good time last night, didn't we?
Yeah. What a movie. We had a great time with the night overall, because we get in on with Wonder Woman, and then I stick around for after Svengoolie with Batman, and then there's Star Trek, and then I sort of lose it a little bit then, and Battlestar Galactica, and I stayed up actually for Kolchak last night, so that was that was good. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Excellent. And not only do Chris and I do things here with the Batman universe, but we also have a lot of other podcasts we listen to. What are some of the ones that you've been liking, Chris?
Well, of course, I got to mention there's a couple. I got to mention the Sutherlands, who put out a fine force. And I had the pleasure to meet the aforementioned Darren Sutherland, who just came in my neck of the woods for a business trip this past week. So I would really, really like to mention, please check out these shows. This is Warlord Worlds. This is a podcast that deals with Mike Grell and his outstanding artwork. Xenozoic Xenophiles, which looks at the work of Mark Schultz in the Cadillac for Dinosaur series. Trekker Talk, which is looking at Ron Randall and the work he's doing on Trekker. And those are all fine shows. And they also put out a couple of new ones, Sensational Sleuths, Fantastic Fantasies, and there's another new one that Cub reporter Gerry just recently appeared on, called Convention Correspondence. And Gerry, my goodness, you did a great job in that episode.
Thank you.
Hey, check out Convention Correspondence to hear my pal Gerry on there.
Thank you.
Cub report. When are you going to get promoted from Cub reporter, Gerry? Because I thought you did an outstanding job. I thought you're senior correspondent at this point.
Well, it was a lot of fun, and I wanted to thank the Sutherlands for letting me do that.
Excellent. Yeah. And then we got some other shows.
We sure do. I've been listening to Cosmic Treadmill and Weird Comics History with Chris Sheehan, who's on Twitter at Ace Comics, and at Reggie. The two of them, they discuss classic comics, and they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, the episode just dropped. I downloaded it before I got here, but I haven't heard it. Gru the Wanderer, #1 from Pacific Comics. I'm really looking forward to hearing that one.
I can't wait to listen to that. That'll be so much fun. We also, of course, listen to Randy Andrews, who does Soundtrack Alley and Gen 13. Clinton Robeson does a Coffee and Comics podcast, which is a lot of fun. Longbox Crusade and Saturday Matinee Theater with Pat, Jason, and Jared, which is a lot. All their shows are a lot of fun. They also do a James Bond one. That's also terrific if you're a James Bond fan.
We got Wonder Woman Warrior for Peace with Angela, and that's an outstanding show. I always like listening to that one.
Definitely.
We also have Parlapod. That's with Dave Schultz and John Benedict. I think Dave's taking a vacation, so I think well earned one there. So, but continue to listen. I think Dave will be back at some point, and we miss you, Dave. But boy, a lot of content is covered with all the new stuff. So that's really good. Gerry, can you tell me about Monster Kid Radio?
Yes, I've been listening to Monster Kid Radio, which is done by a fellow by the name of Derek Cook, I think you pronounce his name, and his wife Brenda joins sometimes to read some fan mail and things like that. It's a terrific show if you're a fan of old monster movies. And it's not just the black and white stuff. It's also some later stuff. They do a lot of Hammer horror movies, and this month in May they're doing Lucho de Mayo, which is luchador monster movies. And I've been listening to the show, and I've never seen one where they have they're Mexican films, and they have the luchador wrestlers. I've never seen one of these movies, but they sound insane. They sound like so much fun, and I'm going to definitely be checking some of them out.
Oh, that's good. Hey, you mentioned Jared with Pat and Jason, Longbox Crusade 7 We got a nice comment for them. Because I don't know if I overlooked it or somehow it just came in later with the feed. But, Jared, that's Jared Albrecht, and you can find him on Twitter at the Yard Sale Artist. He did a hashtag with My Bat Family, and that was something we've been keeping promoting with our show. And we wanted people out there who listen to our show to go on Twitter and put the hashtag out My Bat Family to think of what is your Bat Family. What members of the family there? So Jared chimed in and he said, mine is Bruce, Alfred, Dick, Barbara, Tim, Ace, and Aunt M. effing Harriet. Okay.
All right.
He put an asterisk there, and he said, well, I'll get to that asterisk in a second. That means you go, but he said, thanks to BT1 Bad Books and Professor Frensley for the great chat idea. Now, I have to read, what did he mean by Aunt M. effing Harriet? And then I go back to the read. Oh, middle name may not be M. F. Okay, thank you, Jared. Now I get it. But yes, Aunt Harriet. How did I forget Aunt Harriet? My goodness, So that was really good. Jared, thank you so much for chiming in. And listeners, you could still get in on the fun.
Yes.
Go Twitter with My Bat Family, hashtag My Bat Family. Please let us know what is in your Bat Family. We also got some great comments on Twitter. We heard from our good friend Virginia Blues at VA_Blues with regards to our last show where we reviewed Grant Morrison book with the Black Glove, and he thought this was Morrison at his macabre best. We also heard from Weasel Skull from the aforementioned show. He thought this was a great episode. Makes me want to read the Morrison run again. Yes. Then we also heard from Longbox Crusade, who chimed in and said, another great episode. Thanks for the promo play and shout outs to Saturday Matinee Theater. We agree. Jerry was an awesome guest. Yeah, so looking forward to having him back on. Hey, how about that, Jerry?
Sounds fun.
Yeah, and then he said, Chris, let us know when you want to be on, and we will let it roll. Hey, how about that? I got an invite.
You should do it.
I look forward to that. I would really like to do that. And, if Longbox Crusade, they're reading a lot of books from the 70s, and these are books I remember getting off the 7-Eleven spinner rack. So when I hear that this is first time read for some of those guys, I go, oh, wow, I remember reading this when I was like maybe in the single digits age. Maybe it was like 7, right when those books were coming out, and I was a diehard Spider-Man reader then, and they're covering Spider-Man right in I think they're coming up to the late Amazing Spider-Man numbers I think they're the tail end of the 150s. They're approaching like the 160 mark now. So I remember that era very, very well, along with the X-Men. I didn't get started I think X-Men number 100 that they're going to do on an upcoming show is the first one I got off the spinner rack because I loved the face-off cover of X-Men number 100. I was familiar with, a bit about the characters, and I think Wolverine and Nightcrawler did a cameo in around Spider-Man 161, give or take an issue. So yeah, that gave me an introduction to those characters. So yeah, what a great show! Yeah. What a great Longbox Crusade and Saturday Morning Matinee. Catch those out. Hey Jerry, we also got some likes and retweets over on Twitter.
Fantastic! Like what?
Yeah, well, we heard from Warlord Worlds at Warlord Worlds. That's Darren and Rousselin. Nice. Weasel Skull at Weasel Skull. Reggie at Reggie. Secret Wars Podcast. That's at Sean 2AZ. Thank you so much.
One.
Oh, I heard the great episode was the last one that they did, the Secret Wars Podcast, where they're covering Secret Wars Part 2. Wow, they really did a great deep dive and a lot of analysis there, and great questions were asked there. A lot of Morgan Grant from the Batman universe. Great friend of the show. You can find him on Twitter at DMG1. Dustin Frischel. Hey, Dustin.
Hey, Dustin.
At Bearded Bat Chief. Thank you so much. We also heard from Anthony Joseph loves Alterna Comics at Alterna Comics Fan 1. Rob Myers, hey, from the TBU at Drummer Rob 10. Stephanie Mounts, hey, who's
fantastic.
Also, on the Batman Universe Comics podcast for the moment. You can find Stephanie at Fancy Nerd Design. Joe Crawford, longtime friend of the show at Iowa's Joe. The Longbox Crusade at the Longbox Crusade. Parlapod at Parlapod. Chris Sheehan at Ace Comics. Virginia Blues at VA_Blues. Lava Hog at Lava Hog. Green Lantern HG at Green Lantern HG. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. Jeff Hunter, longtime friend of the show at Jeff Hun, 349-11855. Paul Shanley at Paul Shanley. You can find his great reviews over on the TBU website. New friend of the show, Lisa Ann at I Love St. Trinians. Oh, thank you so much. Pyre, and the Too Old Too New podcast, longtime friend of the show, Bill Beer. Please forgive me if I overlooked you. If I did, you can contact me on Twitter at B2OnBatBooks, and I will be sure to mention you on our next episode.
Fantastic. That's a lot of great people there and a lot of talented folks as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all we have for today. Please join us at the end of June. There's going to be a little bit of a delay because of the TBU 250th episode festivities, but we'll be back at the end of June, and Chris and I will be covering Batman and the Outsiders. My name is Gerry.
And I'm Chris.
And thank you for listening to Bat Books for Beginners.
It's Bat Books, Bat Books, Bat Books, Bat Books. We know how you feel. We love our Batman. But sometimes you get stuck with a trade that you don't like. Save your money and your time. Just when you think you're reading is stuck. Chris and Gerry come with another tale that you can't wait to read all up. Download Bat Books, Bat Books, Bat Books, Bat Books for Beginners. Bat Books for Beginners with Chris and Gerry. It's Bat Books. Fall in love with another trade. You know you can. For beginners, we'll talk Bat Family, discuss the stories. Subscribe and download Bat Books for Beginners is good.